So the big question is this: how do those of us with crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we simultaneously seek success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard, and welcome to the Think Bigger Mastermind. Hey, welcome to the Think Bigger Mastermind today. I'm so excited to have my new friend, Dan Foster of the Building Champions organization with us today. How you doing, Dan?
Good. How are you doing, Justin?
Good. Super excited to have him here. Here's what you're going to get if you listen to this entire episode, and I couldn't recommend stronger or more strongly that you do. And here's really what he's been able to do within his organization, what his company, this new strategy that they've really embraced, has allowed them to double the size of the organization. They're on track to absolutely do that, and it's through some very simple, probably mindset and strategy shifts and changes that really can be applied to any business, to really probably any facet of your life, just by thinking a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Fair to say?
Changing the mindset, changing your perspective on how you're going to grow your business. Yeah.
So cool. So that's what you're going to get. Here's, let me give a little background on Dan. Dan actually came out of the real estate industry, sold real estate at a high level, and quickly became a leader in really running offices, and had a passion for that, right?
Yeah, had a passion for leading people and coaching them and helping them grow their business and improve the way they're living more purposefully in their lives. And so, yeah.
Cool. So from that, then, you really discovered your passion, safe to say?
Yeah, exactly. Discovered my passion of coaching people and helping them reach new levels of success, and realized that this is what I wanted to do full time, and not just limited to the real estate industry. I wanted to go out there and explore other industries and work with executives at different levels. And so found Building Champions, an organization I'd been around for 20 plus years, and they had been my coaching company when I was a leader and working with people.
Cool.
And so decided to connect myself with them, and thankfully it's turned into a new career for the past 7 years of coaching people. It's
very cool. Very cool. So for those of you that are realtors, I know I have a large audience of real estate professionals that tune in here. Dan knows very clearly kind of like the world that you come from and understands that at a high level.
Yes.
And I would imagine have a number of real estate coaching clients.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, coach a number of realtors, mortgage folks, even some title and escrow folks. So in that whole industry, that's one of our main clients, main verticals that we work with.
Nice. Yeah. So he can really speak to the background that some of you come from. I'm excited to go into depth, Dan, with the strategy that you, again, that your company has embraced to really be on a path to more than double the size of the company.
Yeah.
My mind was expanded, and as you know, the audience knows, this being the Think Bigger Mastermind, anytime you can have an idea that expands the way you see the world, excuse me, and expands the activities that you do and the impact you can have, that's the content and the value that we really want to explore. So. Tell us maybe the old strategy, how you guys used to go about getting clients, and then we'll introduce the new and maybe talk about how that applies.
Sure. We probably do what most people do in real estate and in sales, is we went after what we called B2C business. So if I met you on the street, I'd try to give you my elevator pitch and convince you to work with me as an individual. And we would target individuals in different industries and organizations, and it was sort of a one-to-one type of approach with the producers, the managers, the people at the mid-level range of companies, if you will, or small business owners. And we had an experience with a very large client that approached us, and we connected with them and actually built up a very good relationship, our CEO did, with their CEO. And as they started talking and as they started working together, this CEO realized that, hey, this is good stuff. I want this not just for myself, but I want to have this trickle down throughout my organization. And so that experience led to us, instead of just coaching one individual in an organization, it led to a trickle-down effect of coaching that went from the CEO to the next level, the executives, to the executive vice presidents, down to managers, area managers. And the next thing you know, we're coaching 160 to 200 people within that organization. So that really changed the way we thought about going after business. And rather than just simply targeting maybe individual producers, maybe branch managers, or leaders at a certain level, we said, you know what if we went after the C-suite leaders, and what if we started doing business development and looking at organizational leadership, starting at the top, and then building relationship with them to where it would trickle down into from organizational to team leadership to self-leadership of the individuals within those organizations. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
So this strategy, I think oftentimes when people think, I want to double my business, it's like, okay, I've got to double the hours I put in, or I need to double the phone calls I need to make. And what you're saying is that isn't the strategy you guys took. It wasn't like, let's go meet with more people. You said, we serve people already at a high level, but maybe we spend a lot of time convincing people that they need what we have. If we offered really crazy high levels, this high level service to the right people, those people have the influence and the ability to simply say, now you will be coached by this by this group, as opposed to having to convince the individuals that person made the decision for them all.
Exactly. So you go to the top decision maker who, when they make a decision around, for us, personal development within an organization, it's a mandate almost. It trickles down into where when the CEO says we're going to invest in coaching for our top executives and we're going to partner with a company like Building Champions, well then we become the strategic partner of that company. So it no longer is, well, you've got 20 different coaching companies to choose from. Here's some budget money, go choose who you want. It becomes, no, we're strategically working with Building Champions at the highest level of the organization all the way down to the lowest levels of the organization. And so now our number of clients or number of opportunities just expanded tenfold, 100-fold, which has been great. So
you're no longer in the business necessarily of hunting for new clients, it's simply continuing to serve those new clients at just a high level.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So what we did is we started looking at the types of coaches that we have working with us, and do we have coaches? One of the questions we asked ourselves is if we're going to go in at this high level. I've never sat in the C-suite before, so I've never been a CEO or a COO of an organization. But there's people out there that have that gift and that natural skill in coaching. So let's go out and target them to come and work for us, so that when we're targeting companies, we've got a stable of coaches, if you will, that can speak that language. And so we can go in now to the CEO of an organization and say, we've got a CEO coach that has done what you do day in and day out. They've led an organization from 100 people all the way up to like 10,000 people. And they can work with you and help you and give you that outsider insight that you need to help you lead in your organization. And so now we have these coaches that come in, they work with them, and again, the CEO sees the benefit of it, and now it trickles down throughout the whole organization. And now, as it trickles down, now I can start coaching people that have more my executive level experience, maybe at that executive vice president level that I can work with, president level, and other coaches as well. And so we can hit the whole organization at every different level now, just because of one relationship that we targeted, that was the right relationship that could make a decision that would have a tremendous impact on their organization and ours, helping them. So powerful,
so powerful. What comes to mind, a couple of things that stand out. I actually have been teaching kind of a training here around town, kind of teaching realtors maybe a similar concept, but it's added so much. What you're sharing here just adds a lot of ideas and content to what I've been thinking, which is, oftentimes realtors will go and try and convince individual consumers, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm a B2C, I'm going to convince you to buy or sell your house with me.
Yeah.
Yet there's people out there, so let's maybe kind of walk through this a little bit. There's businesses out there that know that a home is going to be sold long before those consumers ever talk to a realtor.
Yep.
Right?
That's exactly right.
Some of those professions might include attorneys, right? Estate attorneys, family law attorneys.
Yep.
And I think one of the strategies that realtors, because that's no mystery, right? But one of the strategies that I see realtors employing, using them as an example, knowing again that our audience is wider than that, but to use them as an example, that they'll go in and they'll say, hey, you're an estate attorney, I'm a realtor, I'd love to get referrals from you.
Right.
In other words, what can you give me?
Yeah.
Whereas your strategy wasn't going to the C-suite owner and saying, hey, who can you refer us to, right? Rather, the conversation was, hey, let us serve you at a high level.
Yes, exactly.
And totally change your world, change your life.
Exactly. Yep.
And then as a result, those referrals will come naturally.
They will, exactly. So if you can demonstrate value to the person that has the ability through their influence or through their ability to make a decision that could open the door to you to have multiple clients, then you go and you deliver the top excellent service that you can to that individual. And in our case, it would be executive coaching for them, right? Work with them, change their life, help them to live more purposefully, lead more purposefully, to make better decisions, to have greater influence. And most likely that then is going to open their eyes to say, I want this for the entire organization. I want all of my presidents to have this, vice presidents to have it, managers to have it, team members to have it. And that's exactly what's happened with us in the last couple of years.
So cool. And again, I think it's that mentality of, number one, thinking bigger, to serving a different person.
Yeah.
And then showing up differently, right? Instead of coming out with your hand out saying, hey, what can you give to us?
Yep.
It's coming in saying, how can I serve you at the highest level? Which at first might not even be a coaching relationship with that person, right?
Yeah.
Or a realtor might not even be in, how can I serve you real estate wise? But how can I add value to your business and your life in any way possible, so that then I get the chance to serve you directly?
Exactly. Yeah, it's really two different mindsets, and I found this in sales as I was, in real estate, and then also in managing realtors, was that there's an abundancy mindset and there's a scarcity mindset. And the scarcity mindset always has their hand out, and they're always looking to either take business from someone else or do something that maybe skirts the line of ethics, right, a little bit, because they're so afraid that if they don't get that deal, that there's not going to be another one. That's a scarcity mindset. And so they sacrifice on their work-life balance, they sacrifice relationships that are important to them because they are so afraid that they're going to miss out on the deal. The abundance mindset is completely opposite. It's that mindset that says there is more than enough business out there. If I just go in and do what I am gifted and skilled at doing, and I do it really, really well, and I serve people at the highest level, then there's going to be a reciprocity. There's going to be where someone says, I want to help you grow your business because I enjoy working with you. I love what you did for me and for my family and for my business, and so let's pass this on. And we have found that abundance mindset is much more likely to lead to you growing your business exponentially than the scarcity mindset, where you're constantly out there trying to take and do things that you normally wouldn't do because you're afraid that if you don't do it, you can't grow your business. Which might show up in the form of the hours worked in the day, right? They got to work around the clock. I've got to answer this email at 11 o'clock, or I might lose this customer. Or I've got to, going back to the realtor example, I better open the door at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night, even though I've got family in town, because I don't want to lose this client, right? It's the scarcity mentality. It is, yeah. People aren't necessarily born with an abundance or scarcity mentality. Somehow it's learned. Maybe would you agree with that? I would. Yeah. I mean, there is some environmental, factors that go in. We're trying to teach our kids, right? I've got a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, and we're trying to teach them what this means. But yeah, for the most part, I think when you get into business, there's a little bit of environment, but for the most part, we go in with a scarcity mindset. I think most of us go in thinking, I've got to do whatever it takes to be successful. That, like I said, can sometimes lead you to sacrifice on certain things, work-life balance, boundaries. Ethics, maybe, ethics, right? Yeah, and I always tell people that if you allow people to just always be able to be in touch with you, contact you, if you treat yourself like a doormat, they're going to walk all over you like a doormat. And that's so you have to honor the boundaries that you have set, the work-life balance that you want to have. Because what I see in the people that I coach is it's not the clients that are to blame, and it's not the customers that are to blame. It's the person that allows they are the ones that dishonor. The leader dishonors their own boundaries that they've set up. They disrespect their relationships that they have by choice because of that scarcity mindset.
Interesting. We treat people how to treat us.
Yes, it's exactly right. Yeah, we set the example. If we allow it, then it's going to happen. So, Dr. Henry Cloud, he wrote a book called Boundaries. He's written Boundaries for Leaders, very famous author, and he says you get one of two things: what you allow and what you create. And so the same is true for leadership and work-life balance. So you're either going to create boundaries and create a process for people to engage with you that allows you to be the best that you can possibly be for them, or you're going to allow them to walk all over you, which then takes away from those boundaries and takes away from the self-leadership, the work-life balance. And when you're operating on a level where you aren't sleeping good, you're up at all hours, you're working late, you're not working out, your relationships aren't good, that self-leadership is going to directly impact how you lead your team or how you work with your customers. And basically you can't give away what you don't possess. And so if you don't have that health and that energy and boundaries and proper placement of work-life balance, then you're not going to have anything to give away to the people that you're trying to serve.
How do you, if somebody recognizes, maybe from this interview or from some other point in their life, they realize, I've got a bit of a scarcity mentality. I feel like I am that person you just described, where I've got to make all kinds of sacrifices in order to not lose out, right? And they find themselves in that scarcity mentality. What's some advice you have to help them break through from that? I mean, I would say probably coaching, right? I mean, your company's obviously primarily positioned to help people go from that. Since you're talking about that, I would imagine that's a key component. Maybe within that, or even outside of that, what recommendation would you have for all of us, really, to have more of an abundant mindset? Yeah,
so I think it starts by really designing those boundaries that you want to have. First of all, saying, what's most important to me? Where do I want to go in the most important areas of my life and in my relationships? What do I want the next 5, 10, 15 years to look like? So you got to begin with that whole cliche of, begin with the end in mind, right? Where are we going? And then once you've got that sort of destination, committing to a certain set of principles and commitments that you're going to have for each of those areas of your life, so that you know that if you do those certain commitments and those certain disciplines, that you're going to have the highest probability of getting to that vision that you have for that area of your life or those relationships or that you're in your business as well. And so once you've got that laid out, then that helps to set up those boundaries. And it allows you to see that if you do those disciplines and if you honor those boundaries, that success will come. And so I think that's one thing, setting up structure.
It's almost like a recipe, right?
It is, yeah.
Like, what kind of cake do I want to have? This recipe will get me there. I don't need to meander over here.
Right.
I just stay this course and trust the system.
Yep.
Trust the process that it's going to get there.
It's exactly right.
And that helps people almost let go and be like, okay, I'm on the path. I did what I was supposed to do. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't need to do crazy things outside of the recipe, right?
You and I talked a little bit about this before, where most people, whether it's in life or in business, they put a lot of focus on the actions, the relationships, and the results in their life. And they focus too heavily on that rather than digging just a little bit deeper into how they're thinking, what they're believing, and what they're feeling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's almost the external versus the internal.
That's exactly right.
What I identified there is again, you said, what were the three things you mentioned initially?
So there's the output, let's say. There's the outside game. That's what I like to call it. I like to call it the outside game, which is your actions, your relationships, and your results. Those are the things that are tangible. You can you can see them. Yeah, you can see what's happening with them and how things are going. And oftentimes we look at those three things and we base our worth, our identity, or whatever it might be on those three things. And how we approach those things, whether they're going good or whether they're going bad, sort of determines our perspective and our mindset. In coaching, what we do is we go a little bit deeper. We go to the inside game. We say, okay, this is great. The actions, the results, and the relationships, those are going to be a byproduct, though, of what you're thinking, what you're believing, and what you're feeling. So let's look at what are the ways that you're thinking about your business right now? What are the ways you're thinking about business growth and going after customers? What are you believing about your product or your service? What are you believing about your role and how you can actually deliver on those? What are you feeling right now about your customers? If you walk in and wake up every single day, you get to work and you're like, man, I hate working with these people. You know what? They don't appreciate what I do. They don't know that I'm busting my butt. Well, that's going to directly impact that thinking, that feelings, those beliefs are going to directly impact your actions towards those people, your relationships with them, and ultimately the results that you get with them. So if we can, instead of just focusing on the mindset, the actions, the results, and the relationships, if we can back it up a little bit and look at what are you thinking, what are you believing, what are you feeling about your business, what are you feeling about your life right now, and look at the inputs that are coming into that. How are we then able to change the way you're thinking, change what you're believing about yourself and your business, which ultimately will impact all of those other things, the actions, the results, and the relationships.
Fascinating, right? I'm reminded of the quote, and I mean, you can probably quote actually who said it, but while there are many chopping at the branches, one is chopping at the root, right?
Yeah.
And it almost reminds me of that analogy. If you got this external game, like everything like above ground that everybody can see, we're spending so much time trying to fix that.
Yes.
Whereas if we just go down to the root, it will actually have a bigger impact. Like what the inputs? I like what how you said that.
Yeah. So we're constantly having inputs at all different levels throughout the day, and so we though get to choose which inputs we allow in, right, or that we listen to. And so, for example, when you wake up in the morning, if the first thing you do is grab your phone and start checking your email, well, that's going to be one of your first inputs. And what if you see emails in there from clients that all of a sudden your stress level goes up, right? Something's not going right with the deal, something's not going right with the product that you're making, and all of a sudden that input causes your stress level to go up, which immediately is going to impact your thinking, your beliefs, and your feelings. So now, guess what? The first person that interacts with you is going to be, they're now going to be impacted by how you're starting your day. And if you're starting negatively, that first interaction is going to be. So what we really try to coach our folks on is looking at the inputs that they have at the first part of the day. Are you starting off with something that's a little bit more affirming for you? For some people, it might be scripture, it might be reading, it might be meditating or praying or something like that. But start off with an input that's going to be positive, that reminds you maybe of where you want to go with your business. Maybe it's reading your business vision. Maybe it's reading your life plan and looking at where you want your marriage to be or your kids or your family to be in the next 20, 30 years. And starting off with that sort of positive input so that your thinking is right, your beliefs you're reminded, okay, I know who I am as a person. And who I am as a person is not dependent upon whether people buy my product or use my service. So therefore, now I've got the right mindset to go out there and serve people no matter what the response is from them. So those inputs that you put in first thing in the morning, that you put in throughout the rest of the day, are going to directly impact your thinking, your beliefs, and your feelings as you go and interact, as you take action throughout the day, as you engage people throughout the day, and it's going to ultimately impact those results that you have.
So those inputs, let's say, for example, you start the day, you've got the inputs right, then something blows up. Is there a practice that you recommend where you go back to that like midday and say,
absolutely,
like, holy cow, like the train is going off the tracks.
Yeah, exactly.
Things start off really sweet, right? It was a nice blissful ride through the countryside, but now we've just been derailed.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I mean, the inputs never stop, right? The inputs are constantly going. So it's not like, oh, I only get inputs in the morning and maybe a few at night. No, it's like every 10 minutes you're getting an input of some sort, especially with today, with all the notifications you get on your phone, right? It's like inputs are constant. So, and every time you engage with someone, that's an input. So yeah, you do have to have a system of going back and reminding yourself of certain things. But here's the beauty of it. When you make that a discipline and a habit that you're doing, when you really start to focus on what is true about your identity, what is true about what you believe about yourself and your product and your service, then you can get through those negative inputs. So that's why it's so important when we work with clients, one of the first things we have them do is we have them cast a vision for their company. We have them identify a purpose. We have them identify core values. We have them identify where they see the company going in the next 20 to 30 years. We don't do that just because, oh, well, that's what Harvard Business Review says you should do and all the books say you should do. We do that because there are going to be times in your business when everything is going to hell in a handbasket, and you're like, why am I doing this? This is like, I've had 10 horrible interactions with customers, our revenue's down, things aren't going good, and those inputs could easily take you off track. But that's when you pull out that vision and you look at that purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. You're looking at where you're going, and that is the best input that you can have, right? And at that moment, you can be reminded that you're doing this for a reason. There's a reason why you've chosen this type of business. There's these core values that are driving you. There's this purpose that is taking you out into the community to help the community be better and to serve people. And that can hopefully get you back on track. Because when you don't have those things to look at and be reminded of, then it's very easy to allow those inputs to change your mindset very quickly.
This is fascinating, Dan, because I'll sometimes talk to people about business plans, and you get some people that say, I don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. Like, business planning isn't for me. And what you're telling me, especially like if you say, let's talk about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they're like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
What you're saying is it's not about the 10 years.
Right.
That is simply a tool so that tomorrow, when the crap hits the fan, you've got something to realign you with the activities that are going to help tomorrow be successful.
Exactly, yeah, because you have to, there's this great, you remember Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah.
Right, so she goes and she meets the Cheshire Cat, and she says something, I'm going to totally butcher the quote, but it's something to the effect of, please sir, can you help me know which way to go? And the cat says, well, where are you headed? What's your destination? And she says, well, I don't know. And he says, well, then it doesn't matter which path you take. She's basically saying, do I go to the left or do I go to the right? And he's like, it doesn't matter. If you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter what path you take. It's the same thing. If you don't have an idea of where you want to end up, where you want to be, and let's just say, let's say, 1 year from now, if you don't have an idea, then every day is like, well, it's a crapshoot. Here we go. Let's just see what happens today. But if you do have an idea of where you want to go, then you can wake up and you can be purposeful and intentional in the people that you connect with, the clients that you engage, the strategic partners that you're meeting with, and each of those meetings, each of those disciplines, each of those actions that you take just get you one step closer to that vision and where you want to be. So, yeah, you have to have a vision. And everybody does. I think everybody, if you sit down and say, where do you want to be? What do you want to be different in your life in 6 months? What do you want to be different in your business in a year? Most people can answer that. Even if it's simply, I want to make money. Great, well, what's that money going to enable you to do, right? Okay, now we know. Now we've got a vision, okay? And so then you can just work backwards and say, okay, what are the activities that if you engaged in those activities are going to give you the highest probability of hitting that vision in 6 months or in a year? And for most people in real estate or in sales, it's going to be engaging with people, getting out from behind their desk and going being belly to belly and eye to eye with folks and connecting with them, building relationships, building that level of trust so that you can ask for referrals and people engage with you and see that you're delivering with excellence. And they're like, man, this was so great, this experience. I want to go and share my experience with my friends and my family and have you help them as well. Super enlightening, really enlightening. And it's interesting, I follow Barbara Corcoran, I think that's how you say it, Shark Tank star. Really real estate mogul. And an interesting story, she didn't have a successful upbringing or early career, but now she's like the queen of real estate in New York, like just a master, and now invests through Shark Tank and all kinds of businesses. But it's interesting, her quotes often go to, it's not about talent, it's about persistence. It's about how fast people get up. And it almost seems cliche because you hear stuff like that. But for someone who succeeded at that level, for that to be one of her primary messages, and what I hear you saying is through the coaching that probably that you guys offer, I'm assuming this part of what we're talking about here is what you guys do to help people do that. We do. And that ability for people to do that
is the most important thing. And some of the tools that you're describing, the 20-year vision, the life plan, the business vision, those things are designed to give people more grit.
Yes,
to give people more persistence, to say, man, this sucks, but I'm not giving up because this is where I'm headed.
Yeah,
right?
It's exactly right. And when you actually take the time to create those for yourself, it's really empowering, because a lot of times, I don't know about you, but like growing up, I always had people telling me what to do. I had my parents telling me what to do. I had teachers telling me what to do. And that actually extends all the way through college and into your first few jobs that you have, right? You have a supervisor, someone telling you, this is what you should be doing, this is where you're going, that sort of stuff. Well, at some point, you've got to say, hey, wait a minute. What do I want? Where do I want to go? What do I want to be? You know, how do I want to have an impact on this world? And what do I want my family to look like? And how do we want to have an impact? And so when you take the time to write out that life plan, to write out that business vision, and then to have business plans that back up that strategy and help you execute on it, man, that's empowering. And that gives you that grit, that gives you that persistence to get through, because you've got that vision of where you're going, you understand the why of what you're doing. Without it, you're sort of like a ship without a rudder. Whichever way the wind blows, then hey, that's where I'm going, right? But if you've got that plan, you've got that vision of where you're going, that's going to help you through the rough seas in life. It's going to help you so that you don't drift and get off course. And that's really what happens with folks, is we start to drift, and the drift is like something where, it doesn't happen where you're like, oh gosh, I'm caught in a drift, I got to figure out what's going on. It's a slow drift. It's like where all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, man, what's going on? Like, this isn't where I want my marriage to be, my kids to be. This isn't where I want my business to be. I'm not engaging clients the way I want to. And it just slowly we drift over time. And it might not you might not notice it for a few years. I know for me, it took like 3 years for me to notice a drift that I was in when I first got into management.
Interesting.
And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, this is not good. My wife came to me and she's like, yeah, we're not good. So it's like, we need to figure this stuff out. And I just didn't recognize it because it was a slow drift. And so those plans and those the vision, you're absolutely right. It gives you that fuel that you need to go through the tough times. It gives you the compass heading that you need to get back on track when you get lost, and it just helps you to be intentional and purposeful as you plan your days, because you're always asking yourself, okay, who am I? Where am I going? How am I going to have the greatest impact on people? Let's design a day that answers those questions really, really well.
Powerful stuff. I think we could probably have a conversation all day long, because I'm fascinated with this topics, and you're obviously a master at this. I mean, some of the things that I've gotten from this, again, is a new strategy and a way to think bigger and acquire customers at a much higher level. Right? Really
target the right
business.
people. Target the right people that are influential, that when they make one decision, it impacts 50, 100, thousands of people's lives.
There's a waterfall effect.
Exactly. Target those people rather than going to everybody at the bottom of the waterfall and busting your butt trying to figure out, okay, who do I talk to now? This guy said no, this guy said yes. Man, I keep getting rejected. 100 rejections to one yes. Oh man, that's a good day. Go out and target those top people that you can build a relationship with and demonstrate excellence with, and that'll help you grow your business.
Just different conversations with different people.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, you look at someone like Richard Branson, who owns how many companies and brands, and like he has the same amount of time as you and I, same amount of time as anybody listening to this. The difference is he just has different conversations with different people than we do.
Yeah, exactly right. And he chooses probably who he has a conversation with. He's selective. And it's not that you don't want to make yourself available to people, because that's part of serving others, but you do have to know how to say no at some point if you're going to grow as a leader and be successful. You've got to know when to say no, and sometimes you're saying no to good things so that you can say yes to great things. And so if you can figure out when to say no to the good so you can say yes to the great, that'll help you even more.
I love it. And then obviously the other component is why have a life plan? Why have a business vision? Why have all these other things? Because they give you the ability to make it through those tough times, right?
They do. Absolutely. Yep. And if you don't know where you're going and you haven't identified what's most important to you from a personal standpoint as well as a business standpoint, and you don't understand or know your why behind those things, then it's going to be difficult when times get tough. And so you've got to know that stuff. It's going to help you get up in the morning. It's going to help you fight through the pain, and it's going to help you to also stay humble and remember what this is all about, and that it's not all about the bottom line. It's not all about market share. It's about serving people, and it's about changing the world around us and improving our communities. And it's about providing a great example for your family and your friends and helping them in new and creative ways.
Well, and then of course the the value you've brought with inputs versus outputs, right?
Yeah.
What a powerful concept. The beliefs, the thoughts, and the feelings, as opposed to the relationships, results, and actions.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff, man.
Yeah, that's all. Just remember that if you're struggling in any of those, if your results aren't there, if you're struggling to take action, if the relationships are struggling, rather than doubling down your effort, I would really challenge you to look at your thinking, your beliefs, and your feelings. What am I thinking about myself? What am I believing about my identity? What am I believing about the people that I serve? And how is that impacting my feelings and how I show up every day to engage in those actions and to engage in those relationships and to get those results? And my guess would be that if we tweaked just a little bit on the inner game, the thinking, the beliefs, and the feelings, then the output, the outer game, the actions, the results, and the relationships are going to be so much better.
Awesome stuff. Dan, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been fun.
Joining us today.
Yeah.
And how would somebody get in contact with you? Let's say that, I'd like to have another conversation with Dan and or the Building Champions organization. What does that look like?
Buildingchampions.com. Best place to reach us at. That's probably the starting point. You can learn all about our coaching at different levels in the organization. If you're an individual producer, all the way up to if you're a CEO of an organization. So buildingchampions.com.
And that's the best way even to get to you.
We prefer that. That's what we talk about, boundaries, right?
I like it. He's practicing what he preaches.
I like to follow the process and have them go through there, because here's the thing. I always want people to go through our process, because I never know if I'm going to be the right coach for you. But you know who does is our sales team. They're dedicated to asking the right questions, figuring out who you are, where you want to go, and then they've got a team of 20 plus coaches that they can match you up with. And so I never want to assume that I'm the guy for you. There might be individuals on our team that are going to be better equipped to help you, and so that's why go to buildingchampions.com, set up an appointment with one of our sales team, and they will help navigate the process for you.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Such good value. Thank you again. Thanks to those of you that have tuned in. And I look forward to the next conversation.
Great. Sounds good, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Think Bigger Mastermind with me, your host, Justin Stoddard. Now, here's how you can show me some digital love in return. Number 1, subscribe to the show. Number 2, give me a review. And number 3, go think bigger.